The chief blocked the doorway with his arm. "She's too young," he said, glaring at the nurse behind him. Blood pooled beneath the gurney. The pilot's vitals were crashing. And then, through cracked lips and fevered breath, the wounded man whispered a name. Her name. The chief's face went white. The guards at the door straightened. And in that moment, everyone in the ward realized they had no idea who she really was. Sarah Chin had been a nurse at St. Michael's Hospital for 3 years. She worked the night shift in the emergency room. Most people didn't notice her. She was quiet, professional. She never raised her voice. Dr. Marcus Reed, the ER chief, liked it that way. He ran his department like a military operation, ironic, considering he'd never served a day in his life. He barked orders. He demanded respect. And he especially enjoyed reminding the younger staff of their place. Chen vitals on bed 4. He snapped one Friday night. Sarah moved without a word. She checked the patient, logged the numbers, returned to her station. "See?" Dr. Reed told a resident. "That's how you manage nurses. Keep them busy. Keep them quiet." The resident nodded, uncomfortable. Sarah said nothing. She never did, but at 2:47 a.m., everything changed. The ambulance bay doors crashed open. 2 paramedics rushed in with a gurney. The man on it was covered in blood. His flight suit was shredded. His face was pale as chalk. "Gee!" to the chest and abdomen, one paramedic shouted. "Extraction from a crash site. He's been coding twice, en route." Dr. Reed took one look and started barking orders. "Get me 2 units of ONAG. Prep for emergency thoracotomy." "Someone page surgery, no time," Sarah said quietly. Dr. Reed spun around. "Excuse me?" Sarah was already at the gurney, her hands moving with precision. She checked the pilot's pupils, his pulse, the entry wounds. "He needs immediate intervention," she said. "We have maybe 4 minutes." Dr. Reed's face flushed red. "Nurse Chen, I don't recall asking for your opinion, Sarah." The word came out as barely a whisper. Everyone froze. The pilot's eyes were still closed. His lips moved again. Sarah Phoenix. Actual. The 2 paramedics exchanged looks. One of them took a step back, his face suddenly pale. Dr. Reed grabbed Sarah's arm. "Do you know this man?" Before she could answer, the ER doors burst open again. This time it wasn't paramedics. 4 men in dark suits entered. They had earpieces, tactical boots, and barely concealed weapons under their jackets. The lead agent scanned the room. His eyes locked on Sarah. "Ma'am," he said, his voice low and urgent. "We need to secure this room now." Dr. Reed stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "Now wait just a minute. I'm the chief of this emergency." The agent didn't even look at him. "Sir, step aside. This is a federal matter." "Federal." Dr. Reed sputtered. "This is a hospital. You can't just..." "Dr. Reed." Sarah's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. It was different now, sharper, colder. "Let them work." He stared at her, shocked by her tone. Sarah turned to the lead agent. "How many hostiles?" "Unknown. Crash site was ambushed. We think they followed the ambulance." Sarah nodded once. "Lock down the no one in or out. Tell your team to set up a perimeter at the north and south corridors." The agent didn't question her. He just nodded and spoke into his wrist mic. Dr. Reed's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Chen, what the hell is going on?" Sarah ignored him. She was already pulling on fresh gloves, her eyes on the dying pilot. "I need a crash cart, a thoracotomy tray, and every unit of ONAG you have in the blood bank. Move." The nurses around her jumped into action. They'd never heard her speak like this. But something in her voice made them obey without question. Dr. Reed grabbed her shoulder. "You don't give orders in my..." Sarah turned to face him. Her eyes were different now, harder, ancient. "Yeah? Just became a combat zone, doctor," she said quietly. "And that man on the table is worth more than everyone in this building combined. So you have 2 choices. You can help me save him, or you can get out of my way." For the first time in his career, Dr. Marcus Reed had nothing to say. If you want to see what happens next, make sure to subscribe, because what's about to unfold will change everything you think you will. Know about the quiet nurse in the corner. Sarah's hands moved like lightning. She cut open the pilot's flight suit, exposed the wounds. 3 gunshots. 2 through the chest, 1 through the abdomen. Trauma shears, she called out. A young nurse handed them over, her hands shaking. Sarah didn't shake. She never shook. She worked with the kind of precision that came from muscle memory, from training that went far beyond nursing school. Her fingers found the bleeding vessels, applied pressure, clamped, sutured. Dr. Reed watched from the corner, his face pale. He'd done thoracotomies before, but never like this. Never with this kind of speed, this kind of certainty. Where did you learn to do that? He whispered. Sarah didn't answer. She was focused on the pilot's vitals. His pressure was rising. His breathing stabilized. One of the federal agents leaned close to her. Ma'am, we have movement on the 2nd floor. Possible hostile surveillance. Sarah didn't look up from her work. How many cameras do we have in this building? Hospital security has 12 active feeds. Let them down. All of them. And get me the building schematics. Yes, ma'am. Dr. Reed's head was spinning. Ma'am, why was a federal agent calling his nurse ma'am? The pilot's eyes fluttered open. He looked directly at Sarah. Recognition flooded his face. Phoenix, he rasped. They knew the route. Someone leaked it. Sarah's jaw tightened. I know. Don't talk. Save your strength. The package. Did it survive? We'll worry about that later. Right now, you need to stay alive. The pilot tried to smile. Blood flecked his teeth. You always were. The best field medic I ever saw. Field medic, Dr. Reed's eyes went wide. He looked at Cirilli, looked at Hereford the first time. The way she carried herself. The way the federal agents deferred to her. The way she'd taken command without hesitation. Chen, he said slowly. What are you? Before she could answer, the lights went out. Emergency generators kicked in a second later, bathing the ER in red emergency lighting. Somewhere in the distance, an alarm began to wail. One of the agents pressed his finger to his earpiece. His face went dark. We have a breach. East stairwell. 3 armed subjects heading toward the ER. Sarah's expression didn't change. She calmly finished suturing the pilot's chest wound. How long until backup arrives? Nearest tactical unit is 14 minutes out. We don't have 14 minutes. Sarah pulled off her gloves. She turned to the head nurse. Get all non-essential personnel into the supply closets. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone except me or federal agents. The nurse nodded and started moving. Dr. Reed grabbed Sarah's arm again. You can't be serious. We need to evacuate. They'll shoot anyone who tries to leave, Sarah said flatly. This isn't a robbery, doctor. This is an assassination. And if that pilot dies, a lot more people are going to die with him. Why? Dr. Reed demanded. Who is he? Sarah met his eyes. He's a courier. He was carrying classified intelligence about a terrorist cell operating in 3 major cities. The people who shot down his helicopter want him dead before he can talk. The words hung in the air like smoke. Dr. Reed took a step back. Jesus Christ. Chen, one of the agents, was at her side. We need you to make a decision. Do we hold this position or fall back to a more defensible location? Sarah looked around the UR-12 beds. Dozens of innocent patients. A handful of nurses and doctors who had no idea how to fight. And 3 armed killers heading their way. She pulled her hair back into a tight ponytail, rolled up her sleeves. When she spoke again, her voice was cold as winter steel. We hold here. Barricade the main doors with gurneys. Position your men at the choke points. Anyone comes through those doors who isn't wearing a badge, you put them down. The agent nodded. Yes, ma'am. Sarah turned to the nearest supply cart. She opened a drawer and pulled out a scalpel. Then another. She tested their weight, their balance. Dr. Reed stared at her in horror. What are you doing? Sarah slipped the scalpels into her pockets. My job, doctor. And for the first time since the night began, Dr. Marcus Reed realized something terrifying, the quiet nurse he'd ordered. Around for 3 years was not a nurse at all. She was a weapon, and she'd just been activated. Asterisk, the ER was silent except for the hum of medical equipment and the distant wail of alarms. Sarah moved through the space like a ghost, checking sight lines, identifying cover positions, calculating angles of attack. The federal agents watched her. With something close to awe, Dr. Reed watched her with growing dread. "South corridor is clear," one agent reported. "But we've got eyes on 2 subjects approaching from the parking garage stairwell." Sarah nodded. "Third subject? Still unaccounted for? Then he's already inside." Sarah's voice was calm, matter-of-fact. "He'll be posing as staff or a patient. Tell your men to watch for anyone who doesn't belong."
Ouch.
She turned to Dr. Reed. "I need you to keep the pilot stable. Can you do that?" He nodded mutely. "Good. If his pressure drops below 90, start another unit of blood. If he codes, you shock him. Don't wait for me. Where are you going?" Sarah picked up a crash cart and wheeled it toward the main entrance. To even the odds, asterisk, the federal agents had stacked gurneys and equipment to create a barricade. It wouldn't stop bullets, but it would slow an assault. Give them precious seconds to react. Sarah positioned herself behind the nurse's station. From here, she had a clear view of the entrance. And more importantly, anyone coming through that entrance wouldn't see her until it was too late. She pulled out one of the scalpels, held it loosely in her right hand, waited. The minutes crawled by like hours. Then she heard it. Footsteps in the corridor outside. Slow, deliberate, professional. The door opened. A man entered wearing hospital scrubs and a surgical mask. He looked around, confused by the barricade, by the red emergency lighting. "What's going on?" he asked. His accent was slight. "Eastern European, maybe?" One of the federal agents stepped forward. "Sir, this area is under quarantine. You need to turn around," and the man's hand moved to his waistband. Sarah was faster. She vaulted over the nurse's station, covered the distance in 3 strides. Her hand shot out and grabbed his wrist before he could draw the weapon. She twisted hard. The sound of breaking bone echoed through the ER. The man screamed. Sarah swept his legs, slammed him face first into the floor, planted her knee in his spine. In less than 3 seconds, she had him pinned and disarmed. The federal agent stared. Dr. Reed stared. Every nurse in the ER stared. Sarah cuffed the man with zip ties she'd pulled from a supply drawer. She yanked the surgical mask off his face, checked his neck for tattoos, his hands for calluses, found both. "Spetsnaz," she said quietly. "Former Russian Special Forces. Probably freelance now." She looked up at the nearest agent. "That makes 2 subjects left. They'll know he's compromised. They'll change tactics." As if on cue, the lights went out again. This time, the generators didn't kick in. Total darkness. Sarah's voice cut through the black. "Everyone stay calm. Don't move. Don't make a sound." She could hear breathing, heartbeats, the soft whir of ventilators keeping patients alive. And then, faint but unmistakable, the sound of a window breaking. 2nd floor, east wing. Sarah moved through the darkness like water. She didn't need light. She'd trained for this. Spent hundreds of hours in kill houses and urban combat scenarios. Her instructors used to say she could navigate a battlefield blindfolded. Turned out they were right. She found the stairwell by memory, climbed silently, reached the 2nd floor just as she heard the crunch of glass underfoot. Someone was in the hallway. Moving toward the Sarah pressed herself against the wall, controlled her breathing, became part of the shadows. The figure passed within inches of her. She could smell gun oil, sweat, adrenaline. She waited until he was 3 steps past. Then she struck. Her arm wrapped around his throat from behind. A perfect rear-naked choke. He struggled, clawed at her arm, tried to reach for his weapon. Sarah applied pressure, precise, clinical. In 8 seconds, he was unconscious. She lowered him to the ground, zip-tied his hands and feet, searched him quickly. 2 pistols, a combat knife, and a radio. She took the radio, pressed the transmit button, spoke in flawless Russian. Target secured. Pilot is dead. Exfil in 5. She released the button, waited. The response came 3 seconds later. Also in Russian. Confirmed. Rally point Alpha. Sarah smiled in the darkness. Now she knew where the third man was. And more importantly, he thought his team had succeeded. She made her way back down to the ER. The emergency lights flickered back on as hospital engineers stored partial power. Dr. Reed was exactly where she'd left him, monitoring the pilot. His hands were shaking, but he was doing his job. "Is he stable?" Sarah asked. Dr. Reed jumped at her voice. "Jesus. Where did you?" He took a breath. "Yes. Stable for now." Sarah nodded. She moved to the pilot's bedside, checked his vitals herself. Satisfied, she leaned close. "Captain," she said softly, "can you hear me?" The pilot's eyes opened, focused on her face. "The package," he whispered. "Did you?" "Safe," Sarah lied. She had no idea if the intelligence had survived the crash. But right now, this man needed to believe his mission had succeeded. Needed a reason to keep fighting. "Good," he breathed. "Good." His hand reached out. Found hers. Squeezed weakly. "You saved my life," he said. Again, Sarah's expression softened. "Just for a moment. That's what I do." Behind her, Dr. Reed finally found his voice. "Who are you?" he asked. "Really?" Sarah turned to face him. The question hung between them. Before she could answer, one of the federal agents called out, "Ma'am, we have multiple vehicles approaching. Fast." Sarah's hand went to the radio she'd taken. Ours or theirs? Unknown. She moved to the window. Looked out into the parking lot. 5 black SUVs were pulling up to the entrance. Men in tactical gear poured out. Then she saw the insignia on their vests. U.S. Army Rangers. And behind them, a 6th vehicle. A command car. Sarah's breath caught. Because climbing out of that car was a 4-star general, and he was heading straight for her. The Rangers moved through the ER like a wheeled machine. They cleared rooms, secured perimeters, collected the 2 prisoners Sarah had taken down. Dr. Reed stood frozen by the pilot's bed, watching it all unfold. His ER had become a military operation. And somehow, Sarah Chun is quiet. Unassuming night shift nurses at the center of it. The main doors opened. General James Hawthorne entered. He was 6'3", barrel-chested, with silver hair and a chest full of medals. He'd commanded forces in 3 war zones. He'd advised presidents, and right now he was striding through a civilian hospital like he owned the place. His eyes swept the room. Found Sarah, he walked directly to her. Dr. Reed watched, expecting the general to demand answers. To take charge, to assert his authority instead. General Hawthorne did something that made every person in the ER forget how to breathe. He stood at attention, raised his right hand to his forehead, and saluted. "Colonel," he said, his voice carrying through the silence. "It's good to see you alive." "Colonel." The word hit Dr. Reed like a physical blow. Sarah returned the salute. "General." "I wasn't expecting a personal visit. When I heard Phoenix went dark and you were involved, I came immediately." Hawthorne's eyes moved to the pilot. "How is Captain Morrison?" "Stable." 3 GSWs. He'll need surgery, but he'll live." The general nodded. "And the intelligence he was carrying?" "Unknown. We need to secure the crash site." "Already done." Rangers found the package in the wreckage, intact. Hawthorne's expression darkened. "But you were right about the leak. Someone in the chain of command tipped off the hostiles. We're running the investigation now." Sarah's jaw tightened. "How many people knew about the flight path?" 17. "We're vetting all of them." 17 is too many, I know. The general glanced around the ER. "I also know you've been maintaining your cover for 3 years." "I'm sorry we had to burn it." Sarah shook her head. "The cover was a contingency. The mission was always priority 1. Dr. Reed couldn't stay silent anymore. Mission. His voice cracked. Chen, Colonel. Whoever you are? What mission? Sarah turned to face him. For the first time tonight, she looked tired. Human. Dr. Reed, I'm sorry you got caught up in this. Caught up in what? He stepped closer, anger replacing shock. You've been working in my ER for 3 years. I've supervised you. I've treated you like... He couldn't finish. It's like a subordinate, Sarah finished quietly. I know. You lied to me. I was undercover. Undercover. Dr. Reed's voice rose. In a hospital? Why? General Hawthorne stepped forward. That's classified, Doctor. I don't care. Dr. Reed's hands shook. This is my hospital. Those are my patients. And you, he pointed at Sarah. You've been lying to everyone here? To me? To the staff. What were you really doing? Sarah met his eyes. My job, Doctor? Just like you. Your job is to save lives. Not two. He gestured at the unconscious prisoners. At the armed soldiers. This. I've saved 37 lives in the 3 years I've been here, Sarah said evenly. 19 cardiac arrests. 11 trauma patients. 7 overdoses. I've done my job as a nurse. And yes, I've also done my job as a military officer. Sometimes those jobs overlap. How? Sarah hesitated. Looked at the general. Hawthorne nodded. She can tell you. Within limits, Sarah took a breath. St. Michael's is one of 17 hospitals we've seeded with deep cover operatives. We monitor for threats, track foreign agents, and occasionally we treat assets like Captain Morrison who need medical care without going through official military channels. Dr. Reed staggered backward. You're telling me this hospital is a spy front, not a front, a resource. Sarah's voice was patient, like she was explaining a medical procedure. We don't interfere with operations. We don't compromise patient care. We're just here in case we're needed. And tonight, you were needed. Yes. Dr. Reed looked at the pilot. At the blood on the floor, at the bullet holes in the wall where one of the hostiles had fired before Sarah took him down. People could have died, he said quietly. People did die, Sarah corrected. Captain Morrison's co-pilot, his navigator. 2 Rangers on the extraction team. Her voice hardened. But a lot more would have died if that intelligence had fallen into the wrong hands. Including people in this city, in this hospital. The weight of her words settled over the room. Dr. Reed wanted to argue, wanted to rage. But he couldn't, because deep down, he understood. She'd saved them all. One of the Rangers approached. Ma'am, we've swept the building. No additional hostiles. But we found something in the parking garage you should see. Sarah followed him out. Dr. Reed, against his better judgment, followed her. In the lowest level of the garage, the Rangers had found a panel van. Inside were enough explosives to level half the hospital. Sarah stared at it, her face unreadable. They weren't just here for the pilot, she said quietly. They were going to destroy the building. Kill everyone inside. Make it look like an accident. General Hawthorne stood beside her. You stopped them, Colonel. I got lucky. Luck had nothing to do with it. You did what you were trained to do. Sarah turned away from the van. How many of my team are still active?
No.
Across 11 cities? It's not enough. No. But it's what we have. The General placed a hand on her shoulder. You've done good work here, Sarah. Exceptional work. But your cover is blown. You can't stay. Sarah looked back toward the patients she'd cared for. The nurses she'd worked beside. The life she'd built. I know, she said softly. Dr. Reed stood in the shadows, listening. Watching the woman he thought he knew reveal a depth he'd never imagined. And for the first time in his career, Dr. Marcus Reed realized how little he actually understood about courage, about sacrifice, about the quiet heroes who walked among us, carrying secrets that could save the world. Dawn broke over St. Michael's Hospital. The parking lot was filled with military vehicles, federal agents, bomb squad technicians, and a small army of Rangers maintaining a security perimeter inside the ER. Life was slowly returning to normal. The patients had been checked, reassured, the ones who'd witnessed. The night's events had been debriefed. Not all of them understood what had happened, but they understood they'd been protected by a nurse they'd barely noticed. Sarah stood at the scrub sink, washing blood from her hands. Not the pilot's blood, her own. She'd taken a graze from a ricochet during the second assault, the one Dr. Reed didn't even know about. When the third hostile had made a final desperate attempt to reach the pilot, she'd neutralized him in the supply closet, quietly, efficiently. No. One had heard a thing. General Hawthorne appeared beside her. Your extraction team is ready. We can have you out of here in 20 minutes. Sarah dried her hands. What about the staff? The other nurses? They'll be debriefed, cleared. Most of them will never know the full story. He paused. We'll tell them you were FBI, undercover, that you were investigating drug trafficking through the hospital. That's a good cover. It's believable. It protects them. And it protects the program. Sarah nodded. What about Dr. Reed? Hawthorne's expression tightened. He's a problem. He knows too much. We'll need to keep him under observation. Maybe read him in fully. He's a good doctor. That's not the issue. He won't talk. He's too proud, too professional. Sarah looked at the general. And he's going to blame himself for not seeing what I really was. Should he? Sarah considered. Maybe I was careful, but there were signs. Small things. The way I handled trauma cases. The way I assessed tactical situations during mass casualty events. She smiled slightly. The way I always knew exactly where the exits were. Situational awareness is standard for our operators. It's not standard for nurses. They walked back into the ER together. Captain Morrison had been moved to a private room upstairs under armed guard. The other patients were stable. The night shift was ending, and Sarah's 3 years at St. Michael's were over. Dr. Reed was waiting by the nurse's station. He looked like he hadn't slept, dark circles under his eyes. His white coat wrinkled, but he stood straight, dignified. Colonel, he said stiffly. Doctor. An awkward silence stretched between them. Finally, Dr. Reed spoke. I owe you an apology. Sarah raised an eyebrow. For what? For treating you the way I did? For dismissing you? For not seeing? He struggled with the words. For not seeing you, you weren't supposed to see me. That was the point. Still, Dr. Reed met her eyes. I was arrogant, condescending, and you saved lives tonight that I couldn't have saved, including mine. Sarah softened. You did good work tonight, Doctor. You kept the pilot stable. You followed orders even when nothing made sense. That takes discipline. I'm a doctor. Following protocols is what I do. No, Sarah shook her head. You adapted. Under fire, under pressure, that's not protocol. That's character. Dr. Reed blinked. He wasn't used to compliments, especially from people he'd spent 3 years underestimating. What happens now? He asked. I leave. You stay. The hospital goes back to normal. Normal. Dr. Reed laughed bitterly. I don't think anything will feel normal again. Give it time, will you? He hesitated. Will you tell me your real name? Or is Sarah Chen all I get? Sarah smiled. Sarah is real. My mother chose it. Chen is my grandmother's name. She paused. The colonel part came later. How much later? 14 years ago. I was the youngest field operative in my unit, promoted to lieutenant colonel at 31. She looked around the ER one last time. I've been many things, doctor. A soldier, a spy, a field medic. And yes, for 3 years, a nurse in your emergency room. All of those things are real. All of those things are me. Dr. Reed nodded slowly. Will you come back? To St. Michael's? No, my cover is burned. To medicine. Sarah considered. Maybe someday, when I'm done with the other part. The dangerous part. The necessary part. General Hawthorne cleared his throat. Colonel, we need to move. Sarah nodded. She started to walk away, then stopped. Turn back, Dr. Reed, yes? There are 6 other nurses on your staff. They work hard. They save lives every shift. They don't get the recognition they deserve. She held his gaze. Maybe start seeing them too. Dr. Reed flushed. Yes, I will. Sarah smiled. Good. She walked toward the exit. The Rangers fell in around her, protective, respectful. Dr. Reed watched her go. Watched the woman who'd served coffee and checked vitals and never complained walk out flanked by elite soldiers. One of the younger nurses, who'd worked alongside Sarah for 2 years, appeared beside him. Is it true? She whispered. Was Sarah really? Yes, Dr. Reed said quietly. She was really a colonel. Can't believe it. She was so normal. Dr. Reed thought about that. About the quiet competence, the unshakable calm, the way Sarah had moved through the ER. It's like she belonged there, because she had belonged there, not despite her other life. Because of it, no, he said finally. She was extraordinary. We were just too blind to see it. Jennifer nodded. Then, softly, I'm going to miss her. So am I, Dr. Reed admitted. Outside, Sarah climbed into the command car. General Hawthorne slid in beside her. Where to, Colonel? The driver asked. Sarah looked back at the hospital one last time. At the building she'd protected, the people she'd saved. Home, she said. Wherever that is now. The car pulled away. And Sarah Chung, Colonel Sarah Chung, disappeared into the morning light. But her legend remained. 3 weeks later, Dr. Marcus Reed stood in front of the hospital board. The conference room was packed. Administrators, department heads, the hospital's legal team, everyone wanted answers. Let me be clear, the hospital CEO said. We had a military operative working undercover in our emergency room for 3 years. Our patients were exposed to danger. Our reputation has been compromised. And you, Dr. Reed, had no idea. Dr. Reed straightened his shoulders. That's correct. I didn't know. That's unacceptable. Is it? Dr. Reed met the CEO's eyes. Colonel Chen saved 17 lives during her time here, not counting the night of the incident. She never compromised patient care. She never violated protocols. And when a terrorist cell tried to destroy this hospital and kill everyone inside, she stopped them. That's not the point. Then what is the point? Dr. Reed's voice grew stronger. That we're angry we didn't know? That our pride is hurt? Or that we're actually upset that someone protected us? Silence. The CEO leaned back. The FBI has asked us to sign non-disclosure agreements, to keep the details of that night classified. Will you sign? Do we have a choice? Dr. Reed smiled slightly. There's always a choice, sir. We can refuse. We can go public. We can tell the world that St. Michael's was used as a military asset without our knowledge. He paused. Or we can acknowledge that sometimes protection comes from unexpected places, and we can be grateful for it. The CEO studied him. You've changed, Marcus. Yes, sir. I have. After the meeting, Dr. Reed returned to the ER. The night shift was starting. The nurses were gathering for a report. He saw Jennifer. Saw the way she moved efficiently through her tasks, the way she anticipated needs, the way she stayed calm under pressure. He'd never noticed before. Jennifer, he called out. She turned, surprised. Yes, Dr. Reed. That code you ran last week? The elderly woman with the me. You did excellent work. Oh, thank you. Mean it. Your assessment was thorough. Your interventions were timely. You saved her life. Small smile. Just doing my job. Still, it deserves recognition. Dr. Reed glanced around the ER. All of you do excellent work. I haven't said that enough. The nurses exchanged looks. This was new. Dr. Reed didn't give compliments, but Sarah had told him to see them. Really see them? So he was trying. That night, as Dr. Reed reviewed charts, a courier arrived. Young, professional. He handed over a sealed envelope for Dr. Marcus Reed. Eyes only. Dr. Reed opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a medal. The paper read, Dr. Reed, Q for your service on the night of February 4th. Your professionalism and courage under fire reflected the highest standards of medical care. The patient you helped save is recovering well. The medal is yours. You earned it. Stay vigilant and keep seeing them. SC Dr. Reed turned the medal over in his hands. It was a combat medical badge, real, official. He'd never served in the military, never worn a uniform. But for one night, it'd been part of something bigger than himself, and someone had noticed. He pinned the medal inside his locker, where no one else would see it, where only he would know. A reminder that heroism came in many forms, that service wasn't always loud or obvious, and that the quiet ones, the ones you didn't notice, were often the ones who mattered most. 6 months later, in a classified briefing room somewhere in Virginia, General Hawthorne stood before a group of 30 men and women. All of them were military officers. All of them had been selected for deep cover assignments. You'll be embedded in civilian environments, the general explained. Hospitals, schools, infrastructure. Your job is to be invisible, to blend in, to wait. A young captain raised her hand. Sir, what if we're activated? What if our cover is blown? General Hawthorne smiled. Then you do what Colonel Chen did. You adapt. You protect. You complete the mission. He pulled up a photo on the screen, Sarah Chen, in her dress uniform. Medals gleaming, stars on her shoulders. Colonel Chen served 3 years at St. Michael's Hospital, Hawthorne continued. She treated patients. She saved lives. And when the time came, she neutralized a terrorist threat without a single civilian casualty. He paused. That is the standard. That is what we expect from this program. The room was silent. Colonel Chen has been reassigned, Hawthorne said. She's training the next generation of deep cover operatives, teaching them what she learned. How to be invisible. How to serve. How to sacrifice. He looked at each face in the room. Some of you will spend years undercover. You'll build lives, build relationships, and you'll do it knowing that one day you might have to walk away from it all. His voice softened. It's not easy. It's not fair, but it's necessary. It's because somewhere out there right now, there's another threat forming, another attack being planned, and the only thing standing between that threat and innocent lives might be one of you, a teacher, a mechanic, a nurse, an invisible hero. In a small apartment in Baltimore, Sarah Chen sat at her kitchen table. She was wearing civilian clothes, jeans, a sweater. Her hair was down, she looked normal, but on her table was a tactical vest, a sidearm, and a file marked classified. Her new assignment, a new city, a new cover, a new life to build and protect. She opened the file. Read the mission parameters. Memorize the details. Then she closed it, locked it away, and made herself a cup of coffee. Tomorrow, she would become someone new, someone ordinary, someone forgettable. But tonight, just for a moment, she allowed herself to remember the pilot who'd whispered her name, the doctor who'd finally learned to see, the patients she'd saved, the life she'd lived. All of it real, all of it meaningful. Sarah raised her coffee mug to the window, to the city beyond, to the people she would protect, even though they'd never know her name. Stay safe, she whispered, and then, like a ghost, she prepared to disappear again, because that's what heroes do. They serve in silence, they protect in shadows, and they never, ever stop. The end if you enjoyed this story. Subscribe to The Secret Medic for more tales of invisible heroes. Because sometimes, the person sitting next to you quiet, unassuming, ordinary as anything but, and the next time you meet a nurse, a teacher, a stranger who seems to calm, too competent, too aware, remember Sarah and wonder,